Michael first met Heidi at a friend's birthday party, where they discovered they had attended the same university. The friend had mentioned a girl who had recently moved to the capital from a small town in the north. Michael was immediately captivated by Heidi's beauty. She had a striking appearance, with a well-defined figure and deep blue eyes. Throughout the evening, Michael couldn't take his eyes off her. Before saying goodbye, he suggested continuing their conversation elsewhere. Heidi agreed, as she had also heard about Michael from mutual friends, who said he came from a wealthy family and had a successful career. Heidi, coming from a humble background, saw this as an opportunity for a better life and was quick to embrace the chance to be with someone who could provide financial security. When they got married, Heidi didn't focus on whether she truly loved Michael, but rather on the idea that the marriage would bring her stability, alleviating her struggles with poverty and the constant pursuit of a better life. Michael was a good-looking and kind man, and Heidi managed to convince herself that she was in love with him. After 2 years of marriage, Michael started expressing his desire to have a child. Initially, Heidi avoided the topic and resisted getting pregnant despite her husband's efforts. Eventually, she relented, and they welcomed a baby boy into their family. Michael named their son John and was overjoyed, while Heidi seemed distant towards the child, showing little warmth or enthusiasm. Michael noticed this and questioned himself for pressuring his wife into motherhood. Heidi put in a lot of effort to be a supportive wife. She wanted to ensure that her husband didn't leave her, so she tried to fulfill all his desires. Surprisingly, instead of controlling her, Michael trusted her completely. He allowed her to go out with friends or spend a night away, despite disapproval from his parents, who often criticized him for his lenient approach towards his wife. However, Heidi's devotion to her husband started to waver after giving birth to their son. She cheated on him for the first time at a party, where she met a man significantly older than her. They continued seeing each other for a few months, with Heidi receiving lavish gifts. Her spouse remained oblivious to the affair, and eventually, the lover ended the relationship abruptly, leaving Heidi puzzled. Subsequently, Heidi had a few more short-lived affairs that didn't hold her interest. Recently, she met a wealthy businessman who was 2 decades her senior. Surprisingly, Heidi had no qualms about the age difference and embraced the luxuries that Finn showered upon her. Even though she didn't hide her family's existence, it didn't hinder their relationship. Michael started noticing that his wife was spending an excessive amount of time outside. While Heidi had never been very domestic, these outings began to push the boundaries of acceptability. One evening, while they were in bed, he expressed his concerns to her. "Maybe it's time to rein in your excesses a bit," he said. "Sometimes I feel like a single father." Michael thought Heidi admitted that she had gone too far and promised her husband she would spend more time with the family. Michael believed her because he was still deeply in love with his wife, just as he had been since they first met. Because of his love for her, he didn't notice the obvious signs indicating that Heidi was infatuated with someone else. Her affair continued for quite some time, during which she indulged in intimate experiments with her lover that she would never have considered with her husband. When her lover invited 2 of his friends to join them, Heidi accepted without hesitation. At first, she thought she was doing it for financial gain, as she had accumulated a substantial amount of money in her bank account, and her lover's collection of jewelry was overflowing her safe. Over time, however, Heidi began to realize that she had inadvertently fallen in love with Finn and had become addicted to him. They exchanged explicit messages on their phones, accompanied by photos and videos that Finn occasionally sent after another night together. Michael noticed that Heidi was always hiding her phone. She never left it unattended, and even kept it under her pillow at night. His curiosity got the better of him, and he shared these observations with a friend. "Do you honestly believe she's not hiding anything in there? Can't you realize what she might have on that phone?" his friend exclaimed in surprise. This got Michael thinking. Could his friend be right? Was it possible that his wife was really hiding something from him? Michael was determined to find out what Heidi kept on her phone, no matter what it took. However, this proved to be quite a challenge, as Heidi was constantly tethered to her phone and even took it with her to the bathroom. Despite the lack of a well-thought-out plan, Michael devised a strategy. He involved his parents in taking care of their son John and convinced Heidi to go on a date. During the date, Michael intentionally got Heidi drunk. When she eventually fell asleep, Michael seized the opportunity to unlock her phone. Although he had a rough idea of her password, it still took him a while to gain access. Finally, when he saw everything stored on her device, a wave of anxiety swept over him. He felt like a spy uncovering an enemy's secrets. His hands were sweaty from the exertion, and his phone nearly slipped out of his grasp. Michael meticulously checked every social network, intending to find something incriminating. His search led him to a conversation between Heidi and someone named Finn, which made Michael feel both feverish and chilled at the same time. Finn had a collection of Heidi's personal photos that even Michael didn't have. Curious about a video he stumbled upon, Michael watched it with regret. It depicted his beloved wife in a dimly lit room, handcuffed in leather restraints, with bandages on her arms. Unable to calm his raging mind, Michael sat in the kitchen all night, looking through the correspondence between Heidi and Finn. The adrenaline rush prevented him from feeling the effects of the alcohol he had consumed. Finally, his wife woke up and immediately noticed the absence of her phone from the other room. She called out to Michael and inquired about his whereabouts. Michael was silent. When Heidi entered the kitchen, her attention immediately turned to her phone. It was obvious from his tired eyes and grim expression that he had been up all night. "What did you see?" Heidi asked cautiously. Michael's answer was short and to the point. Heidi's head was throbbing as if it might explode at any moment. "Do you need help packing, or can you manage on your own?" Michael's tone was cold and detached. Heidi reached for her phone, but Michael snatched it from her and hurled it at the wall, causing it to shatter. Outraged by his action, Heidi remained silent, knowing she could easily replace the phone. She was only upset about not being able to contact Finn until she got a new SIM card. She didn't mention their son, John, as she had no intention of taking him with her, leaving him in the care of her husband and his parents. Heidi was content with the arrangement, having thoughtfully transferred her gifts into her mother's name to avoid splitting them with Michael in the divorce. When her lover Finn learned of her departure from the family, he did not react in any significant way. Despite Heidi's hopes for a more serious relationship, Finn had other plans. He was happy with the current dynamic and saw no reason to change it. Heidi was hurt by his indifference, but at the same time, grateful that he kept in touch with her. However, life took an unexpected turn. For a while, Finn continued his relationship with Heidi, but as a wealthy man accustomed to fleeting thrills, he eventually lost interest and switched to a new girl. Left alone, Heidi eventually remembered her son John, who was already in school by then. When she tried to contact him, he refused to talk to her, dismissing the call as if it were from a stranger. John had no memories of her involvement in his upbringing. By that time, John's father had remarried, and the boy had developed a close bond with his kind and loving stepmother. Barely remembering his birth mother, John's indifference deeply saddened Heidi.